RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, or opinions of its guests or advertisers, and an appearance on RPN is not to be considered an endorsement. Information contained in this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice, and the viewers of this program are encouraged to do their own research. You guys know what time it is. It's time for another Comfy Sunday. We've got a real special show for you guys tonight. As always, my co-host, my friend, my fellow researcher Methods is here. We've got a special appearance by my good friend White Hat, our very own military and government insider. And at the top of the hour, 8 p.m., the Kate Awakening is going to be joining us. It's going to be a great show. We've got people from all over the world here already. I see Chattanooga, Tennessee, Missouri, Salem, Oregon, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Washington State, New England, Wyoming, Arkansas. My girlfriend's here. Hi, baby. I love you. Hopefully my mom's out there, too. Thank you to my mods. See my mods hanging out. Bunch of regulars. Good people here on Comfy Sunday. Southern California, Michigan, Maine, Glendale, Arizona, Knoxville, Memphis, Tennessee, Patriots from Australia, Tasmania, Nevada, Michigan. The list goes on and on. So many good people here tonight. We're going to be right back after a quick word from our sponsor, guys, so don't go away. We'll be right back with Methods, White Hat, and the Kate Awakening. If you or your family become trapped in your homes because of the recent events taking place around the world, your best friend just might be the solar water heater. Now, the solar water heater is an amazing new device that allows you to heat and boil water outdoors simply using sunlight. Depending on the conditions, the solar water heater can heat water in as little as 30 minutes and will work anywhere the sun shines. You can use it to boil water, cook noodles and rice, or to sterilize water for drinking. The solar water heater is the perfect tool in times of need, and limited supplies are available. This is your last chance to get it for 15% off on the new 2020 model before they sell out. Take advantage now and give the perfect gift to the outdoorsman or survivor in your life. Please visit www.solarwaterheater.com and use code REDPILL15 for an extra 15% off. Once again, that's www.solarwaterheater.com. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, and here we are. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Thank you for sticking through that information from my sponsor. Methods, how are you today, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
Just
Comfy
chilling.
Sunday time. YouTube chat. How's everybody doing tonight?
How about you, White Hat? What's up, buddy?
Hey, happy Sunday. How's everybody doing?
I know that I'm comfy. I'd like to say thank you once again to my fine guests that sent me this beautiful pipe here. So we are actually using a new system tonight, guys. There's some changes that are always taking place on this platform, as I'm sure you're well aware. They're changing things not only on the front end, but also on the back end, the way that it works for me. So there's some neat things. This is something I didn't mention to you, Methods, but they now have this feature which allows me to make a highlight clip from whatever it is we're doing. So if we get to like a particularly good segment and I know that it's going to be, you know, just top of the hills, then I can click this button and it will export a little mini video.
Hey, we're getting fancy around here, huh?
Yeah. It's almost like a real studio, as if it wasn't enough already.
Right.
Well, listen, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for joining us tonight, you guys. There's no better way that I can imagine spending a Sunday evening. Maybe there's, one or two, but this is just about the top here. But I see that lots of people are here. You've been waiting for a long time. I thank you for that. If you guys could just make sure that you like the video, share it on your favorite social media platform, maybe send it out in an email to some friends and relatives. Get them over here. Neon Revolt is in the house. Glad to see you, Neon. And I wanted to say a special thank you to Wheezy Girl, because she's been here since I published this several hours ago. White Hat, what's going on with the mask, buddy? Tell us what this is.
Want to talk about it?
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Yeah, so this is a little purge mask dedicated to the Venman purge and the NFC purge. So I figured I'd go, this route this Sunday. Plus, we got a lot of good information to talk about today, so had to get a little serious.
It's like we want to take it so serious, but I mean, it's a glow in the dark face, and here we are. Welcome to Comfy Sunday, everybody.
Welcome to Comfy Sunday. Brent Bennell wants to know what I'm wearing. Wow, this is my Sunday best. This is a smoking jacket, I guess. It's whatever this this is meant to be. I'm just hanging out on a Sunday with my friends. So the purge of the NSC, that is pretty good news. We've had some really good news also in regards to the DNI, but first we got to talk about our man Andrew Breitbart.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's been 8 years, man. It feels so much like shorter of a time than that. But we lost such a great digital soldier, and a soldier on the front lines. He was like boots on the ground kind of person, and we all looked up to him. And we still look to his videos for inspiration, and to see for it to be 8 years, and we still want to make sure that we hold his name in a great light and keep his legacy going on. So yeah, moment of silence type thing for him for sure.
Definitely. Andrew Breitbart was and remains an inspiration to so many people. I remember with vivid detail the lead up to the press conference that he was supposed to give, and then just miraculously falls down dead. Within less than a day. I believe it was like 12 hours from then that he was meant to show up at this press conference and give it. And I was so shocked. I mean, looking back and remembering what we've learned over these last several years, how far we know these people are willing to go to stop the truth getting out, it's not surprising, but at the same time it still is. I mean, this is not what I envisioned. And I think that even I didn't believe that they were evil enough to do it. What do you guys think?
Right. I mean, Ann Lowry's got it right. I mean, he's such a loss at this time is what she says. And that's true. I bet like this time now is what he dreamed about. The digital soldier, because it is a battleground that we're on social media, everywhere else. And he would have been absolutely a general. We would all be looking to him for guidance at times on how to handle certain things. So, but I am glad that, we will, carry this on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It did seem like he was one of the first red pillars,
I think on the national stage. Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially in that time and that space. Because back then, there was no one. I mean, there was maybe one person, but no one in the mainstream that was speaking out or that was going against the accepted narrative at that point. But Andrew never backed down. I mean, he was never afraid to say what was on his mind. He spoke out pretty directly at some people. And it was a couple of years before those things came to pass. I mean, there was a specific incident where he confronted John P., Hillary Clinton's close cohort, directly suggesting that he was a procurer for the elites. And after when I saw that, I was like, oh, gosh, it's no wonder that they went after him. I was a little shocked that they didn't do it sooner than they actually did. I need to say thank you to Jersey Rich. Thank you, Jersey Rich. I appreciate that super chat.
No, you're absolutely right, man. Like the whole idea of what he was fighting for is what we see a lot of people doing now. And it's great to see it happening in that case. But definitely everybody here, I'm sure a lot of you guys know of Breitbart, but take some time after the show, but take your time and go watch old clips of his, of what he was fighting for and how he handled himself. And he would just look people straight in the face and talk about things. That's, it's inspirational. It's definitely something that I try to do every once in a while, just because it lets me know, that's the kind of fighting that we all want to do.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about the DNI now that we have had a moment for Andrew. Ratcliffe is back in the hot seat. President Trump has put him back up as his nomination, and something tells me he's not going to back out this time. What do you guys think about it?
I certainly hope not. I think that you look at Doug, he was thinking about, joining up in that position, but it ended up being Ratcliffe again. And of course, we've talked about this before. I was given a little bit of info about Ratcliffe a year ago, to say, hey, look, he's going to be important, and he's going to have some things to do for Trump here soon. Keep an eye on Ratcliffe. And we kind of put that in our back pocket for a while. Mm-hmm. And then when he got nominated for this, on the back channels that we talk on, that little sauce or intel that I got seems to be coming to fruition. I hope he takes it.
I think you will.
Yeah, no, to tell everybody, he's kind of being a little modest about it. White Hat has been telling us every couple months, he's like, now remember, I was told to pay attention to Ratcliffe and what he's going to end up doing. And I'm sure, White Hat didn't necessarily know it'd be DNI, but it makes the most sense. But yeah, no, we've been paying attention. So even when it was announced back then, last year, it made a lot of sense then, but you could see how it was a little bit of a head fake. Like you said, he wanted to get the IG report out.
Yeah.
And now it's a perfect time for him to do that. And I'm excited to see, because he doesn't care. He just wants justice, and he knows everything. He's seen all the intelligence anyway.
He's been watching, he's been listening the entire time. I mean, he's been very vocal about the information that he has and that he's seen come before the committees. And I think that we needed to get through all of this stuff so that there's nothing that could stand in the way. There's nothing that's at stake. All of the investigations are over. The only thing that's left is the D class. So Ratcliffe comes in as the DNI. He's going to oversee the release of the information. I think that it will be perfectly timed to coincide with the election. It's going to give just enough time for the public to get all the info and for lots of brains to melt in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, remember, he's already seen all of the classified information. He's already seen it. He was one of the ones that got, I think he was able to, he's able to go in and out of a skiff. Yes. So he's already seen them. So for him to declass, it should be easy because he's already laid eyes on the information.
We've come a long way from Mr. Coates when it comes to DNI stuff. It won't be it won't be a plugged dam. It'll be a waterfall of him allowing things to come out how they need to.
Yeah. Social Observer says Ratcliffe has the same experience as Dan Coates. I don't know what Dan Coates' experience was prior to this. I don't necessarily think that it's a must for the DNI to have sufficient experience in the intelligence industry. It doesn't need to be a career intelligence person. Yes, I think it would actually be a bad thing if it was a career intelligence person. Say it was somebody who had been, I don't know, at the Clowns in America or something like that. I think they would be less likely to oversee the release of this information. What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, to me, and I agree with you, but for me, it's when you talk about government, a lot of times it's just who you know and the circles that you run in. And so you got to think Ratcliffe and Jim Jordan and the whole crew, they've been working hard at this with Nunez. And they've been working hard at this for quite a while now. And, he's in the right circles. I think to me, that stands out for him. And we know he's going to do the right thing.
Well, we also got to see a lot of them, even through all these, hearings and stuff. The world got to see who he really was. I loved how he questioned people, how he would cut to the point. You could see how he'd set up things to get to a point to ask that question that needs to be asked and kind of put them in their place to answer it. I think he's absolutely perfect for the job. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. I think it was always planned for this time for him to be in that position. And he's exactly there for things to be able to come out.
Yeah.
Look what he did for Mueller when he was grilling him.
Yeah. Stood up to him.
It was beautiful.
So, I mean, just for the record, he is on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. So I think that is a good enough experience right there to have some level of oversight on these intelligence agencies. He's also on the Judiciary Committee and the Ethics Committee. I think that's a great thing, too, because he's got a mind for ethics and for the, ethical continuance of government. And he has very, very blatantly put it out there that he wants to kind of reel in these rogue agents and these agencies in the United States government. He wants to return us to the rule of law in a way that Dan Coates definitely did not care about, I think.
Look at all the leakers. Can somebody just go in there and please put an end to this crap?
Yeah.
Give me a break. I'd be in prison right now if I had a whole bunch of, if I was just briefed, on matters of national security, then I went to a reporter and laughed in my mouth, I'd be in prison.
Do you think that things are going to change with that in that regard once Ratcliffe takes over the DNI? Like, does the head of the DNI have any say in, who gets in trouble for what? I mean, what kind of oversight does the head of the DNI have over, say, the NSC, or is that just a completely separate division within the White House alone?
Well, to me, it's about setting a precedent.
Okay.
It's not necessarily being over it. It's about what do you tolerate. And I know he knows, probably without a doubt, the things that Adam Schiff has done and different people have done. He lives it.
Yeah.
So to me, it would just be a precedent that he would set. And we need the right people. It's about that 40 chest. Get the players in the right spot.
Looney Tunes says, could CV be a test run for when everything comes out? I mean, in a manner of speaking, I personally think that it may be, but I think that if it was truly a test run for this stuff, then that would mean that it was us that perpetrated it, and I can't believe that. Unless it turns out that, what we're hearing about people, passing away from it is not true. If all this is just something to, give people, a cough and a sneeze and a runny nose and maybe put them out of commission for a week or something like that, I can see the government being okay with releasing something like that into the wild. But I mean, what do we know really? I mean, the only place that we're hearing reports of, of deaths is from countries that we don't have direct access to, and we don't know that we're getting reliable information. Gaffer Anon says, finally watching from home with popcorn. Enjoy the show. Where we go on, we go all. Thank you. And then Laura Rook, thank you for the super chat as well. I mean, what do you guys think about that? I mean, is the information we're getting from China and from Iran, do you guys believe it? Do you think it's legit?
I'll let Whitehead take that first.
Okay.
All right. So I want everybody to listen to me. All right. I have firsthand information about this subject. Okay. To answer your question, I think the death tolls over in China are correct. The ones that the CDC are announcing. And the reason why is because they have people there. So they're actually on the ground there, and they have been for a little time now. So here's what you have to understand. The people that are being affected over in China are not being taken care of. So if we have someone, if we have someone that is 30 or 40 years old and they get sick with this, they'll go to the hospital, they get treated, they get over it in a couple of days. Okay. The people that are over there in China, what's happening is they're being, basically it seems like they're being grabbed out of the street and they're being put in a room somewhere, and they're not being taken care of. Now, they do have those hospitals. I have not seen, what kind of healthcare they have there, but I think that's where the disconnect is their healthcare system and the way that they treat patients is differently than we do here. So do I believe the fatalities the reports are correct over there? I believe what the CDC is saying is correct. The Johns Hopkins website is correct. Do I believe the videos that people are pushing out saying that there's hundreds of thousands of people dying or whatever? I personally don't believe that. Now, I don't speak for the government when I say this, but I think the CDC is on top of it, and that's where you need to get your information from. You can go to cdc.gov and look at all that.
What would you say to people who will tell you that Rod Rosenstein's sister is the head of the CDC, and based on that, we can't trust the information?
Okay, so obviously you're leading me into another one of my points. Okay, so here's the thing. I was on the phone call that the doctor was giving to the press. I was actually on the phone call. Okay, and she was a little nervous, and I think the information that she put out for the most part was correct, and I think she did a good job. I think where the issue lies with the press asking, ridiculous questions, trying to trap her into making Trump look bad. You should have heard CNN. They were ridiculous. They couldn't get Trump out of their mouth the whole time they were asking her questions. And she did a good job. She's been at the CDC for over 25 years. Okay. She's not, she didn't say anything that was off cuff, and I have to say this, blaming her for 1,000 points, on Wall Street for the things that she said. I honestly think it's a load of doo-doo. Say it without cussing. Don't read into that conspiracy theory crap about her. Everything seems to be on the up and up with her.
All right. I don't know. That's why I asked you, due to your proximity. I thought that you would have a better beat on that. And here's the thing, guys. Just because we know that Rod Rosenstein is dirty, it doesn't mean that his sister is dirty. I feel like we can't walk into that and just assume, that by saying guilt by proximity, I think that we're doing a disservice, because I would imagine that every single one of us has probably had maybe somebody in our family that we were not necessarily proud of, but that doesn't make us bad people. I think that we have to reserve judgment and just see how it goes down. There is so much that is going to be taking place over the next couple of months. I think that most of the audience definitely doesn't trust the CDC. That's the opinion that I'm getting, and that's fine. We all have the ability to make our own opinions. I'm reserving judgment either way. I don't know.
That's exactly what I was about to say, man. Yeah, we've got to, when there's things like this, yeah, of course, it's a relative of, Rat Rosenstein and all that. Mm-hmm. The withholding judgment is the best thing. I mean, yeah, we have the, the infamous Bongino rule on things that break in news. But when it comes to like trusting people's character and their judgment and all that, we're not at all condoning her. We don't know her. We don't know anything about her really besides what's being told that you guys know. But with that said, withholding judgment on everybody and sitting back and watching is what you need to do. I mean, y'all did that with all of us in the beginning and watched how we worked over time, and we would want, the same for everybody else. So, yeah, by all means, be suspect about it. I don't trust the CDC as far as I could throw them, but they are what we have, so I'm going to withhold judgment and see what's going on. And if, and Whitehat's proven himself to me that, if he heard the phone call and he saw that she handled that one phone call correctly, how he saw it, then okay, I'll take it at that word. But once again, is there going to be another phone call that we get another opportunity? Yeah. And then he can change his opinion. So in this time being, withhold judgment on all that stuff as far as if CDC is putting out numbers, it is what it is. We can't always trust, the videos coming out of anywhere. We had videos coming out of all the World War III thing that we just went through for 24 hours a couple months ago. Yeah. Videos that we were being sent that were wrong. The media got videos wrong. We don't know where they originated from. So that's why we're all trying to unpack this situation. That's why I don't tweet a lot about it, because we're trying to unpack all of this stuff, and it's very difficult because there's just too many variables, and we're all taught to think about all of them.
Yeah. So let me mention one thing. So I know that there is a lot of negativity about the CDC. I have some friends that work there, and I've been there a couple of times, and everyone associates the CDC with this whole vaccination or anti-vax, you know, agenda.
Hmm.
That's fine. You can have your opinions on vaccinations and this and the other, but just remember there's other people and there's other areas in the CDC. It's not just vaccinations, and they go around trying to sell vaccinations to everybody and their freaking kids.
Hmm.
You know, they do a lot. They do bio warfare. You don't even know that. You know, they help keep. You know, they hold like a lot of the crap that that are used for chemical weapons. You know, they study all that. You know, people don't really realize that crap. You know,
Hmm.
at least that's what I heard they do. But they do a lot of other things besides just the vaccination. So listen to Methods and Red Pill when they say just hold back on the hate. Right now, they are at ground zero. They are the ones that have the ability to test the coronavirus. People are sending in um, samples, and it's the CDC has a 24-hour window that they test it and have the results back and sent back to wherever it is that's getting tested. They basically are ground zero for us. So don't bite the hand that feeds you right now. Let's lean on them a little bit and hold your impressions of them. Just hold it in your back pocket for a while.
A few minutes ago, OH said something fairly interesting that I'd like to bring up. Whoever they are, male or female, they said, isn't the American judicial system based on innocent until proven guilty? And I would say, yes, that's definitely part of the reasoning behind my thinking. I'm not quick to rush to judgment on anybody for anything. Let's go ahead and see some sauce. I know that is difficult in today's world because we're getting information crammed down our throats 24 hours a day. But believe me, the more that you think about something, the longer that you ponder it and study the information and the evidence that's coming out, the easier it is to come to a conclusion that is closer to reality than anything else. We've been taught to make snap judgments, guys, and that's not a good thing. I need to say thank you to Michelle Overby. Thank you for joining as a member. George Leonard says, bring Melissa from Freedom Force Battalion on. George, you're about the 50th person in the last 48 hours that has mentioned Melissa from Freedom Force Battalion. Melissa, why don't you just email me, redpill78 at protonmail.com, or you guys can tell me how to get a hold of her, because everybody just keeps saying her name, but nobody gives me any contact info. Robert Spray, thank you for the super chat. But yes, I would appreciate it if somebody could help me out with getting a hold of Melissa. I would appreciate that. That'd be great. Also, Q Revere says, the connection between the management of outbreaks and vaccines is inseparable, and they have a proven track record of lying. H1N1 case in point. How are they confirming these cases? That's a great question, Whitehead. How are they confirming these cases? And, I would say that the CDC as an umbrella organization has a spotty track record, yes. But again, there inevitably must be good people that work at the CDC, just as there are good people who work in every branch of government. We cannot just say that every single individual inside each of these agencies in the U.S. government are bad and therefore cannot be trusted or must be removed. We have to think critically and, trust but verify. I'm not saying the CDC is God. I'm not saying that the CDC is who we need to follow. I'm saying, let's just think about this. Don't immediately discount information because you're hearing that it's from the CDC. But Whitehead, how are they verifying these cases? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
So my understanding is they have an infectious disease area that they have been putting together for over, I think, 2 decades. They've slowly been building on it. That's what, like when they talked about Trump pulled funding from the infectious disease, we're not ready. Yeah, that's total bullcrap. I actually spoke to someone in that area, and they said they've been ready for years for something like this. So what happens is they take samples. My understanding is this is just rumor, but I heard they had 400 samples that they got from Ground Zero in China that they brought there, and they put together a way to find the coronavirus in the samples, and my understanding is there's a 24-hour turnaround for that result.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Didn't you also hear, didn't somebody recently come out that had been infected and they had some insight into how that process went?
Well, you mean the person that got better that I was telling you about?
Yeah, the person who got better.
Yeah, I mean, we had I say we, but the U.S. had a patient that got it. The guy was probably 45, 46 years old. I can't remember how old he was. Had it for, I think, 2 or 3 days, and was basically like, this is like an upper respiratory infection. I just got fluids and I got better super quick, and it's not as potent as people are talking about. And to me, that goes back. Well, the guy, he had top-notch care.
Mm-hmm.
You look at people overseas. The healthcare that they get over there just may not be nowhere near what it is here. So, the numbers may be, like we said, inflated or not inflated. Who knows what in the world is going on? It's a lot of craziness. But what we do have is we have concrete facts. We have a guy that was pretty healthy. He got it. He got better in 2 or 3 days, and he's moving on with his life.
Well, I think that's great news, especially considering the attitude that President Trump has had about it. And it does go back to the idea that, if obviously I think this was created by someone, this is not a natural phenomenon. Somebody put this out there. To me, it's just a question of who. Was it them or was it us? I can see on both sides of the fence how it affects either of us in a negative, and a positive way. Obviously, people have very strong opinions about it, but I am very, very careful about what I say, you guys, because I don't want anybody to take my words from this show and then say Red Pill said that this is what's happening and this is what I believe. I want you guys to tell me what you believe, because I think that's more interesting.
Right. Well, I think that it's always good to have, this show is all about discussion. This is about, chewing on ideas and seeing where it goes. So where I come from on all this, because I haven't talked about it a whole lot.
Please.
And I'm not trying to make a case for, was this a white hat op, black hat op, whatever. I look at the effect of it happening. And what do we see from this becoming a part of our everyday conversation? We see wall-to-wall mainstream media coverage, the hope prawn, to change a word a little bit,
I like it.
About it, to see, that kind of happen. And now we don't talk about the impeachment failure anymore. A lot of time is now taken up talking about how much the Dems are failures when it comes to all that stuff, bye-bye Buttigieg. All that mess. The idea that it's making it a part of the fear tactic, which they always want to use. So we have that aspect to it. What did it also hurt? Or even better, what was the timing of it was very curious to me.
Yeah. Because
we just had, phase 1 signing with China, and then boom, they get hit with this stuff. And which leads me to believe possibly, bad actors trying to put China back in line.
Yep.
For daring to even work with us on a phase 1, because this hurts them, a lot, because nobody's wanting to buy anything from there, and they live off of the sales economy of stuff.
Yes, they do.
So it hurts them, but in turn, even our favorite Anon has pointed at, they would bring the stock market down to hurt the election. Mm-hmm. Because think about how many times Trump has said, look at our economy, the great economy. It's one of the things that he points out of his success as being president. And so what better way than to kind of take that away from him, or try to, of his narrative, like, oh, well, look at the stock market. It just dropped thousands of points over the past week. So that would make sense. Another aspect of it that I am curious about is what can be happening behind the scenes during this time. If we want to believe that this was planned for, we might not have known this was going to happen if we want to assume it was a bad actor thing, but it's something that our side would have planned for. So if this was going to be attacked because they had no other options and they want to do this and scare the world and make Trump look bad and hopefully he doesn't get reelected, well, then there would be a counter operation planned for way in advance of things to handle behind the scenes. And then you get into things that make me a little curious, but I'm also very hesitant to even bring up is, the Pope being sick multiple days, all these different things happening over time. The reports of Iran wanting to weaponize it, and use it on their own people. There's been all these conversations. So what I'm saying is that when there's that many variables, how can you really have an opinion in one way or another?
Yeah.
If you taking all that in, I still don't have one. I don't know where to put my chips if I had to answer who did this and why, but the why leads a lot towards a battle between good versus evil, because it is hurting what we've been building, as, a patriot movement, as a, in the United States as a nation. This does hurt it, but it would have been planned for. So I'm curious to see what comes out after the fact, because this narrative's not going to be around for forever.
No, I tend to think it is just going to fizzle out. I mean, like President Trump said, it'll be gone by April. I need to say thank you to Chris Hawkins. He says, good evening to the Kate Awakening, Red Pill, Methods, and White Hat. Thank you for all you do. Have you watched War Castles on YouTube? Yes, I've had the people from War Castles on this show twice. If you just do a search in my live streams for War Castles, you'll see it. Patricia Marshall says, I saw a video that Lysol kills it. Yeah, that's right. There's a number of different strains, and Lysol does kill it for sure. And then Kim says, people in the chat are asking if you have heard if 5G is playing a part because it affects oxygen. I've only heard that. I saw that video from Dana Ashley, but I don't know anything more about it than that. Homebody Heaven says, I think General Secretary Xi and Trump are working together to take down the CCP deep state. I think the Wu flu is part of it and part of the economic reset. I mean, I can see all of those being true. That's the thing. Social Observer says, I think it's a Chi-Com DS globalist cabal operation to destroy the economy. Trump wins if he blames Barry for selling it to China in 2015. I can see that too.
There's so many great points that, like, I literally can't point people in the right. I'd love to.
Yeah.
I like being able to tell people what I think the truth is on something, but this kind of thing on a global scale is something that we should just, consider the options and not necessarily argue or denounce other people's ideas. The 5G thing, y'all know, I don't ever talk about 5G.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one of the things I dive into. The only time I see it talked about is in the movement itself as far as its effects. So it's something that I need to educate myself on and see how it can affect things. So all this stuff, it's such a mess, and there's so many different variables. Just take your time, listen to everybody's opinions, develop your own, but also sit back and use discernment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the news and the situation and everything that's going on, it literally has been changing every 8 hours. Every 24 hours, there seems to be some big news or some change. I agree with Methods 100%. Sit back, collect your thoughts, get all the information you have, and just help people deal with what's going on. You think about this right now. There's a huge number of Democrats that are not socialists, okay? And they're going to look to someone or some group for guidance and for help. And what better people to listen to than people like...
Are you still there? Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay.
Oh, sorry. But so, the people that are, I don't know where you left off or where I got cut off on that, but basically, you're going to have a group of Democrats that are going to be looking for a home. You're going to be looking for people that are going to need information from the people that know the truth, that have been red pilled, and it's going to be us. Sit back, take that information, and, lend out a hand to anybody you can, but be responsible.
There's a great point that I'm seeing in the chat by a couple different people, but Danny Boy in the chat and Cammie McLaren have brought up, stay prayed up, put on the armor of God. That's the best part that needs to be talked about more and more about this. I mean, literally in Revelation talks about pestilence, it talks about these things. And I'm not trying to say, go down that rabbit hole of end time stuff, in this conversation specifically, but, giving things to God and, staying prayed up, especially on the White Hat's point of, being prepared to be there for people, finding your strength and your balance to where you can stay, quote unquote, comfy enough to be there in the moment to help people. So by all means, those are two great points, and it needs to be something that we should probably talk about more.
I need to say thank you to Charles Pixley, good friend of the program, joined as a prescriber. Red Pill Doc says check out red algae, effective against other more virulent viruses. Robert Spray says Russell Gould was in Davos and called out George Soros. Somebody else said that earlier. And then Tix, thank you for the super chat, Tix. Thank you for the super chat. So yeah, I think that's about all I want to talk about the CV, you guys, because we can just speculate for hours, and I don't think that it really does us any good, because all we're going to do is just keep running in circles, and something tells me that maybe that's exactly what they want us to do. So let's talk about some good news. Let's talk about the fact that Pete Buttigieg has dropped out of the presidential race. In the last 24 hours, we lost Tom Steyer. Now we lost Pete Buttigieg. So it's looking more and more to me like it's going to be Bernie Sanders in the general election. Do you think that they will allow him to make it there, you guys?
Well, I don't think it's considered a loss of them dropping out. With that said, it does make things interesting for sure. Because I mean, even though we don't have a loss. Hey, Kate, can we cut off the?
Sorry.
It's okay, Kate.
No, you're good.
You're here a little early, but that's fine.
Sorry.
Okay. Who let her in? Okay, it doesn't matter.
I'm gonna call not it. As far as you know that situation goes, because obviously Buttigieg was watching a lot of Obama videos for his statements and stuff, because even his cadence was on point. But having him drop out, Steyer, nobody really took him seriously in his dance moves. Luckily this isn't a dance challenge because Trump would be in trouble. But as far as we have, who do we have? We have Biden. We've got Sanders. We've got Warren.
Klobuchar.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the next one probably.
She's
drop,
the next
in my opinion. Right. But it's going to be interesting because I do see Warren also falling off. So, the old white men leading the charge is going to be pretty funny. But as far as those two, I mean, it's literally going to split the Democratic thing, because it is socialists against the guy that's trying to run in the middle. That's the face they know before with Biden. So it's already going to rip them apart. And I really couldn't tell you who's going to be, because what Trump goes through is what Bernie's going to go through when it comes to media attacks. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But if I had to call it, I probably think this is going to be Sanders, just because of how much he's got, grassroots backing. I don't know why, but he does. And that would be, socialism against MAGA, and MAGA's going to win that hands down.
Well, 100%. Crystal Lynn said that she can't wait for the convention, for the DNC convention. I am so excited for that because, like you said, it is literally going to tear them apart. Anybody who is a Bernie supporter is not going to get behind whoever ends up being the inevitable Democratic candidate if they end up stopping Bernie Sanders. Now, Bloomberg was purchasing a 3-minute ad on 2 primetime network television stations today, NBC and CBS in primetime. Imagine how much money that is. He's going to address the nation on the CV epidemic that we're potentially facing. But rumor has it that he's working to buy his way into the Democratic nomination by purchasing superdelegates. So essentially, with all of these other Democratic candidates, if they last until the DNC convention, then you're not going to have enough regular delegates for Bernie Sanders to capture the Democratic nomination, and then it's going to end up being dependent upon the superdelegates. And if that is the case, and Mike Bloomberg is able to prevail until that time, and he buys all these superdelegates, then it might end up being him and President Trump. What do you guys think about that?
Certainly possible. But, honestly, I just don't see anyone right now that's going to top Trump. I mean, look at the all the conventions and all the stuff, stuff we see on TV. There's so many people, and, you got Thomas yelling out garbage and, the whole, I mean, it's just been so great, and then you look at the black vote and everybody's so excited. I mean, there's just, man, I honestly, at this point, I don't even care who goes against them, just because I just don't see how anybody can beat him right now.
Well, consider this. I look at Bloomberg as a Trojan horse to pay for the PR I'm sure he's not even spending all of his own money. Yeah, he's got it. But we keep talking about how frivolous he's been with his money. Well, he would be a great way to be an excuse to spend, maybe a Soros money, something of that nature. And we know the DNC is broke as hell. So having somebody who's willing to pay for all these ads to do all these things and push, because he also said didn't he say he's going to back whoever actually gets the nomination? So they have the PR payment, the advertising sales in pocket with having Bloomberg in the discussion. So I don't know. I don't trust it. I don't see him winning. I don't see them picking him at all.
No, I don't see any Democratic candidate beating President Trump in any respect. Need to say thank you to Navy Vet, says Comfy Sunday. Sookie Boo says, don't spend all this time in one place. Don't spend this all in one place. Okay, thank you for that, Sookie. Red Pill Doc says, Biden called his greatest Fox supporter Chris Wallace. He called him Chuck Wallace.
That was so good. And he was like, well, the guy's like, I'm Chris. And he goes, yeah, I said that. It's like, no, you didn't.
That's awesome. And thank you to Charmaine twice. All right. Well, since we reached a natural breaking point in that conversation and our guest is here a little bit early, we might as well bring her into the conversation. Kate, Awakening,
Who
how are you?
in?
I'm going to kill you. Who touched that
I thought
button?
I did the right thing. Basically,
No.
if technology's involved, then it's going to get messed up.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I'll
So.
let her in, and y'all can suck it. I'll let her in.
All right. Last time your co-host, Cyber. Thanks. All right. Appreciate it. Glad you're here, Kate. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. I appreciate you being here. Everybody in the audience, if you're not aware, with us right now is the Kate Awakening. Give me just a moment to, I'm going to drop your Twitter handle into the chat box and people can get a look at it. But Kate, tell us about yourself.
Well, gosh, I'm 5'4". I like long walks on the beach. I don't really. I'm still like not sure what to say when people are like, "What do you do?" or "What is your YouTube channel?" How do you explain that to somebody? You guys are obviously far more enlightened than the average person that I am talking to. But basically, I've got a YouTube channel that I started, I think, March-ish, and where I kind of go over current events, things that are happening, but it all stemmed from Q. So I had my awakening when I found Q in February of 2018 and kind of felt activated to do something. And that just kind of, there was a natural progression that just kind of led me into the direction of having a YouTube channel where I started off I had high ambitions. I was going to do these deep dives into basic fundamental things that were going to red pill people, and it just ended up being Tuesday Night Lives where I chat with people.
It once you get into it's a lot more than I think most people realize. Like
Yes.
there are like people in the audience always have very strong opinions about like how a show is supposed to go or subjects that you should be covering. Things that are important to them, obviously. But when you're in the position to make the shows, plus you've got a life, you've got children, you've got work, you've got a family. Everything goes out the window. It's not necessarily going to be what you think it is.
Totally. And I love that feedback. And when people come at me with those things and have all these great ideas of what I should do, my reaction to them is usually, that's what you should do for your
Right?
show. Let's get your show going.
No,
Awesome.
yeah, totally. All right, so I put your okay. So I'm sorry. We have like there's this new streaming setup for YouTube. This is the first time that I've used it. It's like I don't know which one you use because there's like three different ways that you can stream on YouTube. And normally I just go to Stream Now, but they keep screwing with the information and filling in the stuff from the last stream that I did. So there's this new thing everything is not where I'm used to it being. So normally I would have your information in the description of the video, but here we go. I figured out.
How dare you?
Yeah, while you talk about that, I'm gonna just drop her YouTube channel in chat repeatedly.
Yeah, you go ahead and
thank you.
keep doing that.
Make sure you subscribe to her. I personally, when I catch her, being live, I see it happen on the side on YouTube. I always tune in for a little bit. Kate's been around for a while. I've seen her name, pop up here or there. She's always been supportive of what I do on Twitter and stuff. So bringing her on was kind of a no-brainer. And also, I caught, I don't know if everybody else in here, anybody caught it, but she did an interview with Abe over on 5x5, and it was a great interview. It made me very excited to have this conversation tonight because Kate Kate really does work hard, and I see what she's trying to do with her time and all that stuff, having a child. And it's very exciting to see people working on things and building their platforms, because we do need more people. We need more people having these conversations. So I, hat tip to you, taking that step and doing that. Because you said you started, March last year? Your anniversary, right?
Yeah, March is when I started my YouTube channel. Before that, I was just tweeting. That was what and I was actually content doing that. I felt like I was really excelling at retweeting people, and I was like, yeah, I'm helping.
Right.
Like Ralphie from The Simpsons with my finger at my nose. I'm helping. But I did feel like it was doing something, and eventually I decided that it was important to have as many voices as possible out there discussing these things. And because I am not your stereotypical conspiracy theorist, when somebody looks at me, they're not like, oh, there's the guy in his basement or whatever. I felt like that was an element that I could maybe add. I don't know. But like I said, everybody's got their own unique voice, and they're all important. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna do it. I have no shame. And we're just gonna see where it goes.
So you mentioned that you started making the shows because you learned of Q. You kind of got your own awakening. What was that process like? What was it that clued you in that things were not what they seemed, or what was an event, and how did you find out about Q?
It's weird. We talk about the Great Awakening like it's this. A lot of people describe it as this consciousness event that is going on worldwide, where people are just kind of tapping into these things. And that's almost what started happening to me. I was literally one of those housewives that sat on the couch watching Bravo, and like that was my own little narrow world, and my child and whatever. But I would have been probably content doing that for the rest of my life. But all of a sudden I was like, just all I can say is that I had this extreme thirst for knowledge. And I just started buying books, and I was like, I'm just going to start looking into, things that I'm interested in. That ended up morphing into me starting a conspiracy theory Facebook group
Okay.
where I was just more talking about like fun, light conspiracy theories. And I actually loved that Facebook group. And in that Facebook group, we were kind of going over what's the conspiracy theory that you've heard about but don't buy into or whatever. And somebody brought up the one having to do with pizza. Mm-hmm. And I had heard of it before, but I really basically I had heard about it. The sentence was, yeah, there's this thing, it's called this, but it's already been debunked. So I never looked into it. But then I was like, well, I'm going to just check it out. Because I was like new Kate was like reading things, and I was like, why not? I'm just gonna start like clicking on links, right? Because that's not ever dangerous,
right?
And I couldn't believe what I was able to come across. Honestly, that happened on a Friday, and I did not sleep the entire weekend. I'm not kidding. I didn't sleep. I was able to. I got dunked in like head first. It was crazy, and I just on Monday or it was Sunday night. I felt like a different person. I was like, I don't know what to do with this information now that I have it. I'm not like an activist kind of person. Nobody's going to listen to me. I just complete despair is what I felt. And somehow, I don't even remember what it was that I searched on my computer, but somehow my very next search led me into Q. Thank goodness. So yeah. And then it was just, it just kind of took off from there like instantly.
Lord only knows what your show would be about if it had been a different subject that had taken you down a different rabbit hole.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm sorry,
I have a feeling it would have led me to Q anyway.
Probably.
Yeah, no, we've got enough info out there. It kind of intertwines with those kind of things. And yeah, you also can confirm that Red Pill is an upper. It does keep you up. It makes you want to research and do these things. But
Definitely.
yeah, we all went through that, Kate, over time, or I could speak for, I assume a lot of people, when you fall into the world of researching these things and stuff, I can remember back when I really got into it. You kind of just listen to everything. You want to see, you want to hear about it. That's why I do suggest to people, check out everybody's theory videos. If you got the time, go down those roads and at least learn what's wrong about it. And so you can have an opinion. And I mean, you doing your own show, and Red Pill can contest with, or agree with this too. Like, we need to try to be opinionated on a lot of things, the best we can, to where we can then have these discussions. And we believe, and we've talked about this, me and Red Pill, before, having a discussion the best we can about a lot of stuff, whether it is, counter arguments that end up setting fires on Twitter because there's camp A and camp B that can happen. That's fine. But the discussion needs to happen. It needs to happen fairly. And to do this on a platform like here, that's why I got into talking. I had so many people ask me for months to get on and do a show. Red Pill was one of them, and kept pushing me to do these things. And after a while, I was like, you know what? I want to see enough people do this too. I need to speak first, at least in my circle. And that's what got me into it. And now I don't shut up. So it's pretty, it's pretty exciting to see things. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Kate. But no, I mean, you get it. You understand what we're all researching and stuff like that. Well, let me ask you, what's the weirdest thing that you've fallen into a rabbit hole about?
Weirdest? I don't, maybe
interesting, something.
Honestly, one of the most fun things I looked into one time, it was when I was researching some of the heavier child-related things. I was like, I need to take a break. And somebody had kind of mentioned Tartaria to me, and I'd never heard of it before. So right. I went into that, and honestly, it kind of blew my mind, and it was fun. And so that was one of my favorites, just because there was nothing about it that was dark or heavy. It was just all fun. And, even when you get into, everything's connected. So I'm not even really sure what I believe about that, but it was just a fun dig. It was fun to just look at something and be like, I'm just going to put everything that I think I know aside and just accept this while I'm watching this person talk about it. And I had fun.
I can totally relate to that, because during my research phase on the Italian food stuff, it was just so dark. That was at that point that I really started to realize just how interconnected all of these things were, more than I had ever allowed myself to realize before. And I had to separate myself for a time and start looking into things with a little bit lighter flavor to them. Josh Bracken, need to say thank you to Josh. Need to say thank you to Banshee Bane. Mini Mike is paving the way for Big Mike. Well, that's interesting. Molly Van Duser, thank you for joining the channel as a member, and thank you to Wendy Vetter as well. Also, Fat Girl watched Fall Cabal. Just wow, the people I've asked to watch it and now showing it to others. Red Pill them. Great tool for red pilling newbies. Seriously, I actually did start watching that Fall Cabal series, and I can say that it's a pretty good show for normies. Definitely, it takes you in at an easy pace.
Hey, Red Pill.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and duck out, you guys.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Hold on
Thanks.
a second. I have a couple of people that just want to say hello.
Okay.
All right.
The whole fam family.
So cute.
What's up, kids?
All right. Well, they wanted to peep in and say hello, but Katie, I haven't met you. I'll start digging on your channel, and I'm just a weirdo over here in a mask. And
don't dig too deep. It's very embarrassing in the beginning.
All right, guys. Hey, chat. I love you guys. I'll see you guys here in a little bit. I'll jump in and start cutting it up with you guys and methods and reptile. I'll check you guys later.
Right on, brother. Take it easy.
Bye.
See you, bud.
Thanks for coming.
Out.
Appreciate it. All right, good stuff. Hold on, I actually have to. Oh, there he goes. He's gone. Good stuff.
Now, if he were not to wear a mask, it'd be weird, right? At this point,
I wish he wouldn't. I wish he would be able to come on without the mask. I think that would be best. So, Kate, you said you were just the average everyday housewife watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or whatever it is that you were watching. What were your politics like? Tell us about that.
My politics were, I'd always labeled myself as a conservative just because that's what my parents were. And when it comes down to the fundamental, beliefs of conservatism, as far as what I knew, that is what I believed. But I really wasn't paying attention, not even near as much as I am now. And so I just wasn't, I like the outrage of the day would sometimes get me in, but I was never really digging too much deeply into things. When Trump got elected, I was very confused. I didn't know what to think about it. I didn't know how to feel about it. Part of me was a little afraid, but part of me was really excited. And I do remember feeling this like strange energy shift that I can't really explain, that I was like, whoa, what is happening? So, you know, and I stayed confused until I started to dig. And then not only was it making a lot of sense to my brain, but just it was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is right. I just felt like this is right when I found out what he was actually doing. So that was, yeah. That's my past with the politics.
Were you paying attention like at the very beginning when he started in with all of his executive orders and specifically? Okay, because for me, I was paying attention to all of that stuff, and when I saw President Trump taking action immediately on human trafficking, child trafficking, at that moment I knew that I had made the right decision, because it was obvious that he was working to take care of the things that we had been researching and that were so damaging to a lot of people. Need to say thank you to Mary Isle, and then Karma Anon says, keep up the great work, Kate. Keep up the great work. So
thank you.
So how soon was your realization of what was happening before you actually started the channel? I mean, was it like in the month of March last year, like everything happened all at once, or?
So the March of 2019 is when I started my channel. February of 2018 is when I found Q.
Okay.
So it was a year, a little over a year before I actually started my channel. And I was, like I said, I was just doing stuff on my Twitter. But first, when I found out about it, I was kind of putting little hints of things on Facebook, because I knew what was going to happen if I came out and said anything other than in my little conspiracy theory group.
Yes.
And I ended up going in, I think it was October, to a Trump rally with my best friend. And I almost posted the pictures that night because I was on such a high that like the vibe was so good that I wasn't thinking clearly. And then I didn't. And then a couple days later, I was going to do it and I started getting nervous. And then I was like, oh man, am I going to do this or not? And I really had to struggle with just even posting a picture of myself in a MAGA hat. It was like this, I knew what was going to happen. I knew I was going to get just dragged.
Yeah.
And I had a separate Twitter and Instagram that I used to use personally. And I have since switched to the Kate Awakening that I use everything for now, where everybody is very friendly and wonderful. But that did not used to be the case. I mean, people were still friendly, but I knew that this was not the demographic that was going to take kindly to a MAGA hat. I'm from Southern California. I know a lot of people in the music industry, clothing industry, you know, younger people. These are not people that were typically supportive of President Trump. And I kind of just said, nope, I'm going to do this. It's going to be good for these people. Even if I get attacked a little bit, some of these people feel like they know me. They know I'm not a bad person. They know I'm not, you know, some backwoods hick. You know, they know I'm not a racist. They're going to see me, and even if it makes them a little bit angry, they're going to have a second thought next time when they think of somebody in a MAGA hat or a Trump supporter, and they might be a little bit less bigoted. So I posted the picture, and oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how ruthless and just terrifying it was. I had like 8,000 comments on it. People were coming out of the woodwork to call me a racist, to tell me that I had joined a cult. Women who I had been supportive in the past for all kinds of health issues. I used to do a blog, Ancient History. I used to do a blog where, you know, talking about infertility and things like that. And women and postpartum depression, and women who who had literally credited me with saving their lives at one point, turned on me like that.
Right.
It's amazing with that hat. That hat has so much power.
Wow.
So
that's
yeah.
incredible. That is incredible.
Yep.
Deanna McIntyre says, Red Pill, I really appreciate all your hard work. God bless. Thank you, Deanna. Kelly Hoffman says, March 6th will be the 1-year delta of Q's Death Blossom crumb. Thoughts on CV being what takes out some big names? It, you know, like we said before, it could totally be. There are so many different rabbit holes to go down with the CV. Jimmy Shively says, I love this woman's research skills. As always, Kate, love all you do. Stay up, stay positive. You don't look like you have any issues staying positive. But I had a similar situation, deciding to come out as a Trump supporter. When I did, I lost my business. I lost everybody that was close to me. I had people, who just had earlier that day been very friendly to me. And then, by like 4 p.m. telling me that, where did, the original person that they had been friends with since high school, what happened to him? We want him back. And then everybody that was my clients, they all dropped me all in a single fell swoop. And I really wasn't expecting that. I knew that, there was some animosity towards President Trump, but I hadn't been active on social media in the same way that I am now. It was just kind of like I would watch people talk about their lives, you'd watch people faking how happy they were. And then, then I'd say something about President Trump and everyone calls me, alt-right. And I'm just the worst person that you could be, And, but I'd say that my life is much happier now. So now you have, brand new social media profiles, everybody that you're friends with. What about the people in your real life, not people in social media? Are you still connected to any of those people that you were physically in the real world connected to?
Well, my closest friends know and are kind of on the same wavelength, as at least as far as Trump goes. They don't get the Q stuff, at least some of them. It was really important for me to get my mother on board because she's my best friend. She's who I talk to. In the beginning, she was like a little afraid for me. And I thought of anybody, I thought the second I explained it to her, she was just going to get it. And that was not the case. Now she's coming around. Now she even follows some accounts, some Q accounts, and will tell me stuff. So that's good. That has been really important for me. But it's funny you say, I don't appear like I have any trouble staying positive. I was actually on antidepressants. I was severely depressed. And something about going through the process of awakening, even though you're finding out about all of these terrible, god-awful things, somehow it gave me this new perspective where it was now I can tackle what it really is. I think on some subconscious level, we are all feeling that those atrocities happening in the world. We know on some level things aren't right. We're being lied to, but we can't put our finger on it. And somehow, even though all of these topics were really dark, I was I could feel this weight lifting from my shoulders. And I was I'm going to see if I can get off antidepressants. And I totally did. And I've never felt better. So that's a weird byproduct.
A couple things there. I can, the same experience with my mom. She's actually a mod now. She's watching the show.
Oh, cute.
But in terms of that despair, knowing that you're stuck in this world where everything is a lie, but you don't have any answers for it. I think that's what it is, because once you do gain the knowledge and then you're able to kind of put a finger on, where all these atrocities are coming from and how they're feeding off of us energetically, and everything that happens that's negative is orchestrated and they're planning it years in advance. Just having the knowledge that we're not crazy, that this is some real stuff, that we are existing in this world full of pure evil. I think that right there, was enough to wake me up, because it was a dark time for sure before this whole movement came along. Methods, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, well, first off, a couple points. One, iPot's in the chat.
Oh.
Got to give a shout out to him real quick.
What's up, iPot?
Yeah, much love to him. As far as with the topic that we're talking about, I'm sitting back thinking how we all come from different paths. You guys dealt with having to, come out of the closet, quote unquote, MAGA, Trump supporter, getting in the queue with, Kate, finding your way with all that stuff. And myself personally, I was into this kind of crazy for a long time. My wife can agree with that. I loved researching these things. I loved being into it. I had already gone through the friends that are all right, what is he researching? I'm not going to answer the phone right now type thing. Because I was always all about this stuff during that time. So to watch this world to where we then all find each other and talk about these things, because I followed politics because I was worried about the world. I didn't want Hillary at all. I didn't care that it was Trump. I was excited that it was, because it would feel different than what what was happening. But to have all our worlds collide in the situation, because it needed to happen. Like you said, how you felt when Trump became president and everything kind of flipped. You kind of felt this different world happening. We all found our place in it in different ways. Personally, I always wanted a world like this where everybody's researching, digging, questioning everything, doing all this stuff. And to see this happen to the point to where it's somebody who wasn't necessarily looking into this stuff, but found their way to where we're talking to 4,200 people right now about our experiences, that's the beauty of life. And that's what needs to happen. These conversations need to, happen. And I like it being in a public forum. And the fact that you went from not really being political to seeing the change, to doing your research, to falling down the Q rabbit hole, to starting your channel, to then hanging out with us. And a lot of people forget that. Red Pill, how long have you been doing your channel?
Since November of 2018.
That's not that long ago.
No, it's not. And what's really funny is that I've been in this conspiracy world for decades, but being a fan of President Trump is a wholly different thing. There's, I had a lot of people that I knew that just were also interested in this stuff, but still President Trump was the devil,
Right.
Totally.
I hear you on it, but this is the new normal for us right now.
Yeah.
And we're trying to build this future that we're doing. So having, these channels and how we handle social media is definitely great. Now, Kate, I do want to ask you, because you talked about this a little bit with Abe, what was pre-Trump Kate like? What was your world? Because I remember you talking about you kind of were in celebrities, not circles, but connections to that world. And I wanted to, have the audience know a little bit more about you in that world.
And real quick, is that Nikola Tesla behind you?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
It used to be some Scottish guy, and people were like obsessed and like, who is that? And I have no idea who he was, if he was like some cabal a-hole. And my mom probably got it on like, I don't know, eBay. And so I had to get rid of him. Anyway, so pre-Trump getting elected, my life was just very shallow. I grew up in LA, Calabasas actually. And I did do some acting when I was younger. So I was in those circles and I was constantly working, but I was never big. So I can now look back on these things and with a little bit of a perspective. But again, that stuff, all of that bad stuff that was happening in Hollywood was very far away from me. I did like commercials and things like that. So that gave me somewhat of a perspective. And then I was, I did Playboy, and I worked for Playboy for like 10 years. And again, nothing touched me. It's really bizarre looking back on it. I heard crazy stories. I was around for crazy things, and girls would tell me things, but none of it all just went like right over my head. I had no idea. Until I started researching it. And then I started thinking back of like some of these little tidbits that I had. And again, I don't have any firsthand knowledge, thank goodness, because nothing happened to me. Even though I was around, even though I was at, there were periods of time that I was at the mansion every weekend at parties. And I was working there. I wasn't going there to socialize. And I was a very cranky person who didn't want to be there. So that was part of it. I was like hiding out downstairs with my friend Carolee and like smoking weed. we weren't like, we weren't trying. And so we weren't like trying to impress anybody. So that's another reason why I was able to kind of stay away from that stuff. But then, I guess I just, after that, I was a hypnotherapist. And I loved that. I love that career. I love hypnotherapy. In fact, when I was first activated to do something as far as the awakening goes and help people, that was my first inclination, was that I was going to do something with hypnotherapy, help people through that really dark time that you go through when you awaken. But that seemed a little premature because we still need to wake people up. We're not there yet. So
you're not quite in the post-work phase yet.
Exactly. That'll come, I'm sure. But I actually had this really crazy dream where it kind of makes me emotional even just to think about it. But in the dream, it was like this frenzy to adopt children, that all of a sudden there were these mass amounts of children that needed homes because they had been pulled from this, awful thing. And I'm wondering if that will be something and, that we should be thinking about. But anyway.
That's an excellent thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it.
Real quick, I just need to say thank you to Molly Van Duzer. Thank you for that, Mr. Spock. Those on Vulcan would like to know why are all the cute Earthlings married? I think that's directed at you. Rhonda Lemker says thank you for all your hard work. Thank you, Rhonda. Filled with Hope says thanks for all you do and for your bravery. I'm sure that one's for all of us. Looney Tune says, Kate, do you have any Mandela effects or know anything about it?
I do. I have several Mandela effects.
Okay.
Usually the ones that I hear about, I'm like, yep. Yeah, I agree with all of them. But one that I just specifically, like, I would bet my life on it was that when I was little, I remember coloring with flesh-colored Crayola crayons.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, but apparently they discontinued that color in the 60s.
No, that can't possibly be true because I wasn't born in the 60s.
Yeah, me neither. So I never had like hand-me-down crayons. I always had a fresh box of, crayons, and I remember flesh because I think it's the grossest word on the planet. And I remember it like kind of occurring to me when I was, I don't know, probably way later than it should have because I was just that dense. But like, not everybody's flesh is orange.
That was my number one question. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one for sure. I have a couple personal Mandela effects where it's like I remember things from my own life that I am just completely positive of that no one in my family remembers. But yeah, I don't know what's to that, but I definitely I think maybe something.
Do you mean like a sister that your parents don't remember or something like that, or smaller things?
We did leave her at a truck stop one time, as I recall, and that was when she was going through her like really sullen goth phase that actually she never really grew out of.
I can imagine.
It was like perfect. It was like the perfect fuel for her for the rest of her life. You left me at the truck stop.
I can imagine like one girl's listening to this right now and it's somewhat lining up with her past, and she's going to email you.
Wait,
and you're going to have a lot to answer.
I remember, Kate, you were my sister. Why doesn't anyone else remember? Chris Hawkins says, father had and has protected you, Kate. Yes, obviously, if you could navigate that world without ever having any casting couch stories or anything like that, even just something casual, I think that you must have been protected.
So close to the belly of the beast there.
Red Pill Doc. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Kate.
Just two more. Red Pill Doc, the awakening activates Jesus within that heals. And Brittany Taylor says, I remember those crayons. I was born in 92. Okay, so the Mandela effect is real. I'm sorry, Kate, please.
Well, I mean, that as far as the research of it, it being discontinued in the 60s, somebody will have to look that up and back me up on that because I'm not sure. As far as being kind of having a guardian angel, there are several things, like big things. I could go into like probably 19 stories here. But one was in particular with the Playboy thing. When I did Playboy, my first photo shoot with them, I was 19 or 20, and they flew me out. I was living in Arizona. They flew me out, and I stayed at the mansion. And at the time, that was during the, when Hef had the girlfriends, and Hef and the girlfriends were in Cannes for the film festival. And I was kind of bummed about that. I was kind of like, oh man, I would have liked to have met them. Anyway, there was a butler that worked at the mansion who was like in his 20s, not what you would think of as a butler at all. And in fact, everybody that works at the Playboy Mansion was like 304. So I think I made the joke they came over with Hef and settled the West with him. But then there was this 20-something-year-old guy that was showing me around, and he was very polite, and he was like, talking to me, and he said, I can tell you're excited to be here. And I said, I'm kind of bummed that, Hef and the girls aren't here. He said, no, that's actually a blessing. He said, I can tell you're excited to be here. And I'm going to make a deal with you. He said, I'm going to take you around to see the entire mansion. I'm going to take you upstairs. I'm going to show you everything that you want to see on one condition. You promise me you never go upstairs again. And I was like, oh, all right. So he took me upstairs. I got to go through Hef's bedroom. I went through his closet. I tried on his pajamas. I whatever. And but I held up my end of the bargain, and I never went upstairs. He's like, I don't care if all the bathrooms downstairs are occupied. I don't care if your friend invites you up there. Never go upstairs. So I never did go upstairs. And I had heard weird stories about things that happened, upstairs. But the strangest thing about that 20-year-old guy, which, by the way, had a biblical name, all of the girls that I worked with, a lot of them were there every weekend, just like I was. We knew the staff of the mansion. It was the same people. That was another thing that I think was kind of an indicator. Hef did not recycle staff. If you worked there, like you pretty much worked there forever, which you would, I think, expect to see if there were things going on that they were trying to keep under wraps. But anyway, nobody remembered that butler. Nobody had any idea who I was talking about.
Wow, that is really interesting.
That's intense, actually.
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to know / not know what went on upstairs.
I mean, eyes wide shut, dude. You know,
right.
I mean, or like The Shining with the dog costume. And
it's got to be something like that. But one question I do need to ask real quick, because we're on that topic. What did you think, Kate, reading the Hugh Hefner Q drops, being that close to it?
I mean, again, I was there. I was in his house. I shook the man's hand probably a couple times in life, but I knew nothing of him. And my only impression of him when I met him was that he was very polite. He was very cordial. So I don't have anything personal to go off of, other than that was the other thing. When I was doing the tour, the butler that was taking me through pushed on the wall and showed me that there were like actual hidden passageways.
Wow.
Or like secret rooms. And so I knew exactly where those were. Then when the Q stuff started to come out and I started to dig deeper onto that, I found the blueprints for the Playboy Mansion that are obviously showing those tunnels. And I never went into them, but I can tell you, based on those blueprints and based on the layout of the mansion that I know pretty well, it lines up to where I saw where they pushed on the wall. Also, there's one that kind of comes down off of like an underground gym where it would make sense. That's the only thing that I can say, is that according to what I know about the mansion, that would make sense that those exist. But
wow. I never doubted it, but I mean, I have a completely different understanding of it now. That is incredible. That is seriously one of the most mind-blowing stories I've heard on the show. What, you said you had more? I mean, you've got more Guardian Angel stories? I mean, by all means. I mean,
I'm just trying to think. Well, just the fact that I was in that that world of Hollywood as a child. I think one I actually talked about the other day on my show was that Heather O'Rourke, who was the poltergeist child, who we've, now are uncovering stories about what happened to her. And, she died of septic shock, which she had a perforated bowel, and it's a very strange way to die as a young child. And there's obviously rumors about what actually happened to her and the whole Steven Spielberg thing. Mm-hmm. My sister was actually, when you go on auditions, so they'll have they'll cast a wide net and they'll interview a bunch of kids, and then they call callbacks, and then maybe they'll call callbacks. So each time there are callbacks, they're weeding it down, more and more. And my sister got into the final round, where I believe it was just down to her and Heather O'Rourke to play this role for Poltergeist.
Wow.
So that could have been my sister. That was obviously something protecting my sister. That obviously makes my mother cringe when she thinks about that. But
that's
my
terrifying.
mom was very protective of us. So she, even if there were predators around, it never was going to get to us, because my mom would have never let us stay in a room with an adult, or, there were children whose parents would just kind of ship them off to LA and stay home in whatever state that they lived in. And the management would basically say, we are going to basically take over custody of your child. We are going to, make the decisions for your child. And if you want your child to make it in this town, then you're going to let us do this. And you need to stay out of the way. You need to be hands off. And people would do that with their children. And that made my mom cringe, not even knowing it. So now we talk about this as I'm trying to explain to her what was really happening. And obviously there are some names that are popping up that, my mom had an inkling about or whatever. But yeah.
Well, we all can agree. Me and Red Pill have had discussions before about how we can look back on our lives and see what led us to this moment where we feel meant for this time. So how you're talking, it reminds me of that. I'm sure you can relate. Like, it's something that we had a lot of different ways to, take an exit ramp and end up doing something totally different, something not as great, maybe not even be breathing right now, mm-hmm. So I bet you feel what we feel at times, that we feel that this time was meant for us to be living right now and doing what we're doing. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting to hear these kind of stories, and you can kind of see some kind of intervention happened that led you in this direction. And then when things happened, it really clicked and you felt it. And it's just very exciting to be in these times because of that.
Yeah, even those dark times when, even right up before Trump got elected, I was in some Facebook group that was like 20,000 women from the LA area that were all kind of influential. I don't really even know how I got added to it. I was like the least influential person in there. But they were just kind of girls that I knew, but it was such an interesting learning. I didn't know why I was so depressed and why I felt like I was watching these girls with this hive mentality, and they were all Bernie Sanders supporters. They're all talking about how they're going to go shut down the 101, which is the major freeway in LA, and with these protests and stuff like that. And I was just like, wow, I am so, and I sat there and watched it, but I didn't participate in any of that. But that was a good learning experience for how these people operate and how they get the younger generation on board with these just terrible ideas.
Right. You can understand the other side a little bit better than some of us can, because I can imagine being in a room full of Bernie supporting women making these plans. No offense at all to any women whatsoever, but
I was there the other night.
Yeah. I'd rather attend my own funeral, be on the grave, than be at any of that.
Yeah.
Looney Tune says, are the tunnels under the mansion real? Which, yes, we have established that. Trailblazer17, Red, have you seen Kellyanne Hub News decodes? Yes, I have. Kellyanne was just in the chat last night. Chris Hawkins says, it was a bunny costume, RP, very fitting with part of Kate's incredible story. Do you guys know about Chuck Missler? Amazing man, amazing, amazing, amazing. He pointed out in the book, Matthew Guardian Angels Are Real. I don't know who Chuck is. Anybody familiar with Chuck? No,
I got nothing.
Somebody in the chat said something about your Arizona mayor in a Mexican bar story. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah, that's another. Well, I don't know if you'd call that a bullet dodge story, but how do I condense this story? When I was when I was doing a deep dive into Nexium and was researching Carlos Salinas, the ex-president of Mexico, and Carlos Slim and the Carlos Slim Foundation and their connections to Nexium, I came across this article, and there was the story that I used to tell from I think I was 19 or 20, somewhere around that age. A friend of mine was dating a guy. They went to U of A, and we went down to go hang out at his friend's house in Nogales, and we were going to go cross into Mexico and go drink because that's what you did. Mm-hmm. And I just remember the guy was wearing this very flashy watch. First of all, the house was really nice for a college student. It was his home. It wasn't his parents' home. So that was my first kind of this is weird. Then he was going to wear this gold watch that was just super flashy into Mexico. And I said to him, are you going to wear that into Mexico? And he said, he kind of laughed and he was like, my dad is the head of the Mexican mafia. Well, we're fine. Wow. And I was like, all right, dude, whatever. So we go into Mexico. He wears the watch. Sure enough, we're in this bar, and these three guys approach us, and they say to him, the one guy says to him, basically, do you want to keep your watch or do you want to keep the two girls? And the bartender hears this, comes over, says to the three guys, do you know who this is? And the three guys look like they had been stunned and started to back up and apologize. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's weird. This guy says who he says he is, I guess, or whatever. But one of the other things he said to me, he's like, yeah, I'm going to actually be mayor of Nogales. And as soon as I graduate, I'm going to be mayor of Nogales.
Wow.
So I remembered that story because I almost got trafficked in Mexico for a watch. And so, I know I had told my mom that story. I told friends that story. So when I was doing all that research and I'm looking into this article about the money that was being brokered between the Carlos Slim Foundation and the Clinton Foundation, the liaison was the mayor of Nogales. And in this article, it actually had his picture, and he's got a Hispanic name that's very common. So if it didn't have the picture, I never would have made the connection. It was this dude.
Wow.
And sure enough, he started being the mayor when he was 24 or something, straight out of college. And so that was a very slim connection, but
Well, I can't. Yeah, that's a pretty airtight connection. I want to ask you about his name off the air so that we can talk to Jeffrey Peterson about him. That's very interesting. And don't worry about condensing your stories. Thanks to White Hat, we have a whole extra half hour, so we've got a lot more time to fill.
Hey, shout out to White Hat though. Thanks for hanging out for sure. And everybody, make sure you're clicking the like button, share this out, and everything. It's been great. We got 4,500 people in here.
Oh yeah, excellent. Good showing. Good showing, guys. And let's see, no other super chats to go through. So what other cool stories do you have, Kate? What else have you come upon in your life?
Well, looking back on, these when I was like I said, I grew up in Calabasas, which everybody knows now. That's where the Kardashians live. Actually, Kobe Bryant's, that was my life a couple of years ago. I would have known everything the Kardashians were up to. But anyway, where Kobe Bryant crashed was literally across the street from my middle school, which interestingly enough was Las Virgenes Road. And then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, Las Virgenes, we know that means the virgins. And I was like, that's weird. I don't know if that was symbolic. But the next major road is called Canaan, which is like Canaanite. It's spelled Caanaan, or no, I think it's with a K. But anyway, I was then thinking about like what was happening in that area. Just these strange connections. When I grew up in Calabasas, it was basically like an old Western town. Now it is, a lot of celebrities and stuff like that. But because it was connected to, it was close enough to LA, but it was also private. There were a lot of celebrities that I went to school with their children and things like that. And, it was a vast, some of the friends that I had lived in apartments. Some of the friends I had, their houses actually had names because they were so massive. So it was quite a scope of kids. And I think back now knowing what I know of the children that I grew up with, knowing these just how, what their parents did or how they were possibly connected or whatever. I don't really know. I did just think of something else, but I don't know if I want to. We'll come back to that because I don't know if I want to talk about it. I know. We'll think about it. I'll come back to that. But yeah, so all those connections are, it's kind of like the Q stuff where it's future proves past. I didn't know, I had no clue of any of these things, but now learning what I'm learning and seeing it line up with the stuff that I did know in the past, it makes a lot of sense.
I can only imagine. It's got to be interesting being in the belly of the beast there. Catherine Good says, keep it up. Thank you, Catherine. Patty Walter says, awesome reporting. People need to know. One of the things I've always wondered, it seems, was there ever any talk about any other religions there in LA, like besides Christianity? Like, did people ever make allusions to Satanism or, worshiping Moloch, anything like that? Because, it seems like, maybe in close proximity to that area, loose lips sink ships. Somebody's going to talk about something because obviously there was a lot of speculation about what happened to Kobe, the things surrounding that, many people in Hollywood. And it's interesting that they've been able to stay, so quiet about all this stuff for so long. I'm sure that you saw a couple of years ago that videotape of Angelina Jolie that was released. She was surreptitiously recorded talking about sacrificing a snake and all kinds of other derelict things that were done to her so that she could get roles in Hollywood. But was this ever anything that was talked about?
Well, it wasn't talked about. The area that I grew up in was like 99% Jewish. I remember it was like me and one other girl who were not Jewish in my class. And so, I went to temple with my friends sometimes. I went to bar and bat mitzvahs. That was the primary religion where I grew up. But I do remember now looking back on it, in like very young, these kids started getting into these like witchcraft phases, and it became kind of cool. And I wasn't sure, I don't know if that's what people experienced all over the nation at that age. I just kind of thought, that's just what kids do. But now looking back on it, I'm thinking, what was prompting that obsession with witchcraft and all of this dark stuff? Not only that, but suicide was like there were very, very adult themes going on in very young ages when I was in like 6th grade. Drugs and sex and all of that, these are children, but there was just like, I don't know if I felt like that was normal, but now looking back on it, I know very much that is not normal. So I don't know how much of that was influenced by maybe something that they were seeing from their parents, if that is maybe just a natural thing that kids do or gravitate towards.
I never cast any spells when I was a kid. I never got into anything like that.
Okay, well.
You walk behind the gym, people got a pentagram, they've lit candles, there's a sacrificial knife.
Right. Well, the interesting thing, though, is that when I was young, my mom got very into Buddhism. And so we were practicing in Hollywood. We would, even though we lived in Calabasas, we were driving into Hollywood almost every day for auditions. And then we would go to Buddhist meetings in Hollywood. So there were actually, a lot of big names that would go to these Buddhist meetings. And that was starting to gain a lot of popularity there in like the late 80s, early 90s. You started seeing celebrities kind of jumping on board. There was that Tina Turner movie that came out where she, starts chanting and whatever. And it was a very cool organization as far as what I could see. I gravitated, my dad was a Catholic, my mom was a Buddhist. I saw cool things about both things. I saw problematic things about both religions. I just kind of didn't gravitate towards either of them, but I went along with my mom to these Buddhist meetings, and it was interesting to me because they were young people. They had a lot of energy. And then when I was 21 and I moved back to LA, I moved to Santa Monica, I decided to get into Buddhism myself. And things had changed within the religion. And it was, it feels like even like all good things get infiltrated eventually. I feel like it got infiltrated, where once upon a time it was just kind of about yourself and karma and, balance of things. Suddenly there was this very unnatural, almost like they were worshiping President Ikeda, Daisaku Ikeda, who was the head of the organization. And you would go to people's houses and they would have shrines to him, which was like basically the antithesis of what we had been told.
Right.
And so there was a lot of talk about the secret, and now finding out some bad connections about how the secret got started. It does seem like I can see the difference between the SGI, which is the name of the organization, from the late 80s, early 90s to the early 2000s was very different. And then Kabbalah.
Yes, that's right, Kamala. What's interesting is that Buddhism is not, it's not a religion. It's supposed to be a philosophy. So to see that it had kind of, transformed into more of a religion, that is pretty crazy. Chris Hawkins says, YouTube Chuck Missler in his breakdown of hidden treasures in the Bible will change your life. Maybe I have heard of Chuck Missler then.
We got ravaged with people enjoying that person, Chuck. And none of us knew who he was, so apparently we have homework.
I guess I'll look into Chuck, guys. I'll look into Chuck and I'll report back. Let's see. Patriot Productions, MAGA Jedi, joined as a member. The same for Russell Waldschmidt. Thank you very much, Russell and MAGA Jedi. And Darrow Bruno says, was the guy from U of A Kate was talking about Marco Lopez, the former mayor of Nogales, the former chief of staff of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, from 2009 to 2011, Janet Napolitano's. Holy crap, I know this guy. I know exactly who you're talking about. Wow, okay, yes it was. Wow, it's very, very, very interesting. If you have any more stories...
Did somebody just dig and figure that out real quick, Kate? Just blink twice for yes or something.
If anybody has seen the other two shows I did with Jeffrey Peterson, we specifically talked about him on this program. I just couldn't remember his name because I got too much stuff coming and going. Daryl Devine says, what are your thoughts on natural health and how it's connected to the Great Awakening? Kate Awakening is the best show on YouTube. So down to earth, so informative, doesn't take herself too seriously, a breath of fresh air. Glad you're here, Daryl. And yes, Kate, the best show on YouTube. Tell us about...
Burn!
You're right. It's got to feel weird reading that on your own channel.
My 12 subscribers are on to you now.
What do you think? What do you think about natural health in the Great Awakening?
I think it's very much a part of the Great Awakening. I think it's going to be a natural progression once we're finding out what all these people have been doing to us over these thousands of years, what they've been putting in our food, what they've been, keeping from us as far as how our bodies work and our minds work and things like that. And, again, it wasn't like there was just something in my mind that once I started researching this stuff was like, you know what, Kate, let's see if we can get off antidepressants. I got off antidepressants. And while I was like coming down from them, I went to Alien Con actually in Pasadena with my sister. We just went for fun. And there was a booth there set up where they were selling CBD. And I had really bad headaches. I was having a really bad headache. And so we were going by the booth. I had heard that CBD helped with headaches. I stopped there. The guy let me try some. My headache went away within like 2 minutes. And so I bought some. And I've been taking CBD ever since. I've noticed a lot of different benefits to my life. But it wasn't like I was pursuing it. It was just like something in my subconscious was like, let's get away from these chemicals and see if there's something else out there that's better. And I have never felt better. I felt like a total zombie when I was on antidepressants.
Yeah.
So
I stopped taking antidepressants many years ago, and it was like that. I just stopped taking them one day, but I didn't leave my house for like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it was a very traumatic experience, and I would not suggest that anybody do it that way. But, once it was over, I was like, it's a different world. Everything is much better. Looney Tune says, if you have God in your heart, then you can manifest the best you. I would say that that's true. Filled with Hope says, I was a Buddhist as a child, and I went to Catholic school. It was interesting. What's the story with how The Secret 4 started? Are you talking about like The Secret, like that book, like,
the book?
Okay. And she says, I thought it was Esther and Jerry Hicks. I think that Esther and Jerry Hicks is something different from The Secret, but maybe they're connected because it's all part of the same world. I don't know. Do you know how The Secret started?
Well, so the Secret, that book that came out, early 2000s, I think, and Oprah was talking about it, and there was just this huge buzz, and every celebrity was photographed with their copy of The Secret on airplanes and things like that. And so I read it and I actually really liked it. But actually, the Edge of Wonder guys did a deep dive on the origins of The Secret and were able to link it to basically Satanism.
Oh, wow.
And there was actually somebody that they interviewed. I can't remember who he was. I just remember this man had a whiteboard and he was explaining it and visuals. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see this. So my brain would compute it, where it was almost like you can manifest these things in this world that you want, but you are tying yourself to this realm, and basically by doing that, you are not able to go to heaven or something like that. Basically, like Satan is the god of the earth, and then there's real God. And so that's basically what all of these elite people have done, is that they've sold their ability to actually advance into what we would consider an actual heaven by tying themselves to this earth, by doing these things to create fame and fortune here now.
Wow.
And that was very interesting to me. Then I started to realize what they were pushing in Buddhism, in this particular kind of Buddhism, which was Nichiren Buddhism, was to manifest. They would say, Catholicism tells you can't pray for a car or you can't pray for someone to die, but we say that those things are okay to do. And if you want to pray for a car, or chant for a car, you can. So, of course, at that time, I was like, "Oh, awesome! I'm gonna manifest a car. I'm gonna manifest this job, whatever." Now I look at it through different eyes, and I think, okay, is that really a good thing to be doing?
I don't know. I mean, there are some people who are like, it's okay to pray for money. It's okay to pray for material things, but I just tend to go with the idea that whatever you pour your energy into, I mean, that's what you're going to manifest in your life. I mean, for lack of a better word, but I mean, it's all part of God's plan. I mean, like, as long as you're doing things in such a manner that you're not, I guess, hurting other people, I mean, as long as you're not like, taking advantage of people and trying to manifest some terrible things in somebody else's life so that you can profit or get ahead. Let's see. Also, Maddo joined as a member too. Thanks. And Methods, you're back, buddy.
I have no idea what happened. Everything just stopped.
You just dropped out.
And then it brought me right back like I asked for it. So
He manifested the call.
I thought about it. I prayed about it, and it showed up. I have no idea what y'all talked about. But
It
I'm
was
sure
my
great.
technology curse that dumped you.
Right.
It's so funny.
But no, I'm here now. So yeah, let's chat.
So let's party.
We've got a super chat from White Hat. He says, I'll have to talk to y'all about heaven, etc. little. I died when I was younger due to pneumonia and was brought back. We'll save that for another time. It's okay to pray for success. I think it's okay to pray for success, but to pray for specific material wealth, I feel like there's, I don't know. I want to be the best person that I can be. And I think that by being that person, then success will come to me because I'm going to be fulfilling God's plan for exactly what I'm supposed to do here on this earth. But I think that if I sit down and I'm like, give me $1 million, give me $1 million, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's okay for White Hat to drop that bombshell of a story when he's already off.
Yeah, dude. An hour ago, that was the time to bring that
right?
up.
You had so much time left to talk about that. But thank you for bringing Kate in. Kate, thank you for being here so far. Everything's been great. Now, is there anything that you would like to cover in this time that we've got left?
I mean, man, nothing specific. I'm interested in it all.
Right.
Well, do you have any specific digs that you're working on or any subject in particular that you're planning on making a show for? And just consider that for a moment and let me say that D's Nutsby Dragon just joined as a member.
That's a great thing to have with a lady guest on. Appreciate it out there.
Thanks, brah. Thanks, brah.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Watch, he's going to cancel right after the show.
Right. Yeah. Just to say it, and while Kate's on. Great.
Son of a Green Card says, we are supposed to manifest the fruits of the Spirit. I completely agree.
I can agree with that. But yeah, Kate, anything you working on?
There's nothing that I'm working on. I've been focusing more just on trying to stay on top of current events because that's what I do with my lives. I had a whole backlog of the things that that I had planned on doing videos on, like Nexium, for example. I can't even tell you how many notes I have on Nexium. Part of it I probably couldn't recall off the top of my head, but I know like an unhealthy amount about Nexium now. And I was going to make a video about it, but there are a lot of great videos out there about Nexium. Then there were just a million things going on after that you just get sidetracked, and it just seems like ancient history.
Right.
But I still want to very much get back to my books. That's one thing that I haven't had a lot of time for, is to finish some of the books that I started and that I was interested in, because there's always so much going on a day-to-day basis. I'm just constantly all day checking the news, checking Twitter, seeing what's going on, and trying to get notes for, so that I can help other people also understand these things through the eyes of, what we've learned through from Q, and, seeing through the lies that we're told on a regular basis and how they try to use us, like even with the coronavirus,
Right.
It's a good example.
Anytime we have like a good Q post drop in the middle of a dig we're working on is a blessing and a curse.
Right.
Because we want to, we're chasing butterflies, trying to do our thing, figure out, stuff, and the Q just drops a bombshell and it ruins everything. Now, I do need to point this out. I have had Average Joe Patriot, friend of 5x5, friend of this channel, say repeatedly to ask you about orbs. And I've seen it more than once, so here we are. I'm going to ask it. What about orbs, Kate?
Nothing. I have talked about on my show an experience I had when I was a kid with an orb.
Okay.
And actually, interestingly enough, you guys were talking about Sylvia Browne last night. And when I had my orb experience, I ended up telling my mom about it when I was like a teenager. Sylvia Browne used to go on Oprah a lot and actually talk about orbs. And she would show pictures of people that people had captured of orbs. And she had written a book about it where she basically stated that they were guardian angels. And so I just kind of thought, okay, that's that. It was a guardian angel that I saw. And then last year, after my whole awakening experience, I started speaking to more people and finding out that this was an experience that a lot of people have had. And I was able to get people to tell me what I experienced before I even had to tell them what it was like or what I saw. And so that was obviously very compelling. I still don't know what it was, but once you see something like that, I think that you kind of can't help but just say, at least I don't have all the answers.
Right. And we just got to always search for them. Now, Red Pill, I want to make sure we hit Daryl Devine's question before we're done, because that's a great question.
Yeah, so Daryl Bruno says, one more comment regarding Marco Lopez. Fast and Furious started in 2009, his first year in his federal position. There are no coincidences. Yikes. Daryl Devine says, what will happen with the Q movement after Trump's second term? What do you think about that, Kate?
Like during his second term?
I mean, after, during, Trump is going to win in November 2020. Where do you think this movement is going from that point?
It's hard to say. Of course, we would hope that by that time we'll have some kind of major disclosure that's going to make us onto a completely new phase of Q. But it is also possible that after, Trump's second term starts, we might be very much in the same kind of education phase of waking people up. There are still a lot of people that are not even caught up to where I am. So who knows? It would have to be something that was very shocking, something that was not like the little hints and clues and confirmations that we've had so far. It would have to be something, as Q said, that's honestly biblical in order to, I think, get us into a phase where we're ready to be done with all of the, kind of prep work that Q has been doing with us.
I can definitely agree with that. And to answer that question, the idea of during this next term and after that, Q obviously drops these crumbs for us to pick apart and look in certain directions. But you being around for as long as you have, and Red Pill can agree with it, it's more than that at this point. We appreciate everything Q has done. We'll continue to follow anything Q does. But we're creating this culture. That's literally why we are having this conversation right now. How much have we really talked about Q tonight? And we need to have this environment. That's why we always talk about people taking their talents and using them for stuff. Dilly's girl paints, and she's incredible at it. She's
also really funny, and those like skits she does, we need stuff like that.
It's fantastic. And even Dilly's commentary, like it's one of those things that, as far as this Q movement, and I'm doing air quotes around it. Y'all can't see it, but it's great.
I'll do them for you.
Yeah, the future that we're building is going to have all these things that we see happening now. The stuff we enjoy, these conversations, the memes, the world. We've even had puppets. We've had MAGA puppets on this on the channel. You're right. No, we're gonna have this. We're gonna have this future that it's just going to build out even further. And we need to have that. So as far as to that question, which is a great question that needs to always be thought about, we're going to have these things available over time, and we're going to get better at it. And hopefully more people will join, create your own, Kate Awakening channel, but do it your way. Anybody listening, if you're going to do this, do it your way. Be excited, enjoy your time. Otherwise you're not going to do it long. That's why I have no problem coming and doing it on Red Pill's channel, because he's got the setup. He's doing what he does. I just like to be a part of it and to be there for the conversation. So keep going on all this stuff. And we're going to have this environment of stuff going on way past it. If Q were to have already be done posting, and I know that people will say, oh no, in the chat, which is fine. It doesn't mean that we're going to stop doing what we do on a daily basis, because we're still talking about real life. We're still talking about the past, and we're talking about the future and life. So yeah, this will keep going on for sure. It's not about, Q doesn't define where this future goes as much as what we talk about during certain points in time.
Absolutely. There's no going back to sleep. Right. There have been, certain times during long lulls of no Q posts that I've thought to myself, that might be it. Q has said repeatedly, you have more than you know. Every time you go back and reread something, your mind will be blown away again by something that you missed, or something that has your understanding on a completely different level. And so all of that archived information is something that could last us for a very long time if Q didn't come back and didn't post another post. So, but we're all here and we're all awake now, and we're all kind of figuring out, I think, the best way in which to not only keep the ball rolling, but like in an exponential way. We're not just going to like keep going, and in a year from now we'll be a year further than we were from here. We want to see like huge growth, which I honestly, in my like deep in my heart, I feel like I hate to be the person that is like setting up the expectations of this massive thing that's going to happen, and then it fizzles out and everybody's disappointed. But I honestly do feel like something massive will happen before the election. That's just my feeling, though.
Yeah, you're allowed to have that opinion. Obviously, we all need to be able to say that, and not Kate was wrong, I'm not going to follow Kate anymore because she said these things. No, it's just how you feel, in your gut.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we, of course, as semi-public figures, we have to measure what we say, and letting people into our thought processes. But I think that's extremely important. I want to be able to spitball. I want to be able to come out here and, talk about theories and, talk about how I'm feeling at the moment. And I don't want people to turn around and use that against us. Take a bunch of clips and put them out of context and then make a hit video or something like that sometime in the future. It's real, though. It happens.
No, I know.
But I think you guys are right. Q did, Q might have started this, but it's not all about Q at this point. It's about us continuing to carry this message and to wake more people up. And, if Q stopped posting right now, I would be totally fine with it, because I feel like, we have all the information that we need that's necessary to continue to bring it to people and wake them up. And kind of, rouse them from their slumber in the same way that we were at one point. I just need to say thank you to Rich Knapp. Rich, he says, you never disappoint, Red Pill. Great show. Thank you, Methods, White Hat, and Kate. Thank you for that, Rich. Azure Sky joined as a member. Jack Konopsky joined as a member. Fed Up in Indiana joined as a member. And Carl Thunderstorm also joined as a member. Thanks, guys. Lucy Lou, thanks for the super chat. Loved you in Charlie's Angels. Trailblazer 17, Red, you have the greatest show on this flat earth. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that, Trailblazer. Man. Thank you for the ego boost. Patty Walter says, God bless you. Your life is mixed up some. It's sad, but with your help and your forum, so many others can hear and learn. Thank you, Red Pill. Thank you for that. And then White Hat says, boss tells me there'll probably be another op after this. Well, I mean, let's just be real. The psyops never stop. I mean, like, the government is always going to be running something somewhere on someone. And, I mean, as long as it's legal to run ops on American citizens, I think they're going to go ahead and take advantage of that. Now, just because it's an operation doesn't mean that it's a negative thing, I mean,
well, tell White Hat, your boss, tell him we're not going to stop either. So that's cool.
Yeah, we're going to keep going. Terrence O'Connor says, what's the best technical editing advice for people looking to create content? Kate?
Oh, I know you're not asking me that question. I don't even know how to work my iPhone. I really don't know. That has honestly been one of the things that has kept me from doing more with my channel, is that stuff is just kind of overwhelming to me. And I would like to do more interviews with people and I can't even show people what I'm looking at on my computer screen yet. I haven't even figured that out. That would be a game changer for me, because to be able to show somebody what you're looking at, or show them the article that you're reading from, or whatever, would be a game changer. I don't know. If I ever find out, I'll tweet it if I can figure out how to do that.
That's a conversation that you can have with both of us, and we can help you down that path.
Yeah,
we got no problem with that.
That's an easy one. I was thinking about maybe having like another channel where I just teach people how to do this stuff, because I get so many people asking, and if I answered everybody just on this one question alone, then I would not be able to make videos anymore. So maybe I will just do a couple of videos where I explain things and put that onto another my girlfriend said, what is that scratching sound? I'm opening up and closing my vape, and it's sorry about that, honey. Oh, you guys, sorry about that. All right, well, we are approaching the end of the hour, so tell me what you guys think about getting some videos that happen to tell you how to make your own videos. There's going to be a lot of learning. Let me just tell you that. You have to learn how to use a lot of different types of software. It all depends on what kind of computer you use. Do you have Windows? Do you have Mac? So, you know, it's going to be different for a lot of different people. But Kate, what is happening in the future for you? What do you see for yourself?
I don't know. As far as things staying kind of relatively like this, I will be continuing my YouTube channel until I feel like we have reached capacity with people waking up. And then as far as beyond that, I mean, my hopes and dreams are that this country gets the overhaul that it needs, that we can go back to living a simpler life, that I can focus on my family, that once, you know, everybody is awake and once our country is saved, I will gracefully bow out and maybe start a garden, and and I would love that, you know. This is not what I intended to do with my life. This was just a calling that I felt that I needed for right now. And we are all going to have to just find our own way through this. But I think ultimately, in the end, we are all going to be in vastly different places than we were last year or even where we are now.
Right.
The world is a-changing.
Absolutely.
I can agree with that for sure. And but to say the whole thing about going to go plant a garden right off to the sunset stuff, I told myself that in the beginning when I showed up as Methods, and I thought it was going to be, you know, maybe under a year. And now I can see years in the future stuff happening. And Kate, we need people like you, for real. Now enjoy your life, take care of everything in real life. You know, you have one child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Take care of your child, do all your stuff. But we love having you a part of this movement, and we would love to see you go as far as you want to go. And whatever me and Red Pill can do, and everybody else listening, you know, we're here to help you. So whatever you need.
Thank you so much. And I mean, ultimately, this isn't about me. It's just wherever I can help is where I will be. And this is a team sport. So, you know, I appreciate that so much. You guys are, you know, I massively look up to you. I know what you're saying as far as when you got started in this, you were going to help out for a little bit. Now you guys both have so many people that are almost depending on you, right? And so that's got to be a lot of pressure for you too. People are turning to you. It's both a wonderful thing, and it makes it hard to, you know, make decisions just for yourself, because now you do have these communities of people that are depending on you. So that'll happen.
All right. Well, you guys, I just have to do a couple of quick thank yous. Daryl Devine says, Kate Awakening and RP, best shows on YouTube. Thank you for that, Daryl. And then It Is Me says, education indoctrinating our future docs, lawyers, kids are wanting to change their gender, etc. California has a bill that schools can give hormones to kids without parents' knowledge. Please do a show. Linda at Seavine has parents and guests. I'll talk to Linda for sure. Goldilocks says, RP78, love your show. I may not always catch you live, but I watch you and Bongino every day. I love you all, Kate and Methods too. Alicia Green, thanks for the super chat. Mythical, great to see you branching out, Kate. I hope to have you on my show in the future and how to stream after a couple of Red Pill 78 tutorials. And Son of a Green Card says, I can be Agent A, Men in Black joke. All right, everybody, go follow Kate Awakening on Twitter. Follow Kate Awakening on YouTube. Thank you so much to everybody for coming here tonight. And as Methods, as my co-host, thank you so much. I'm glad to do the show with you, and it's great to know you as well. Kate, love your work, and I look forward to seeing where you go in the future. Thank you to all my mods. Thank you to everybody who donated tonight. Love you all. As always, this has been Red Pill 78 and
Methods.
Thank you for being
Always
here.
setting me up for that.
For another comfy Sunday, everybody. Good luck and God bless.